I'm Vijaya, back with attorneys of the NPZ Law Group, providing counsel to organizations and individuals worldwide on complex US and Canadian immigration and nationality law issues. Joining me is Samantha Oberstein. She is managing attorney at NPZ's Fort Lauderdale office. Welcome, Samantha.
Hi, Vijaya. Thanks for having us today.
Super, as always, Samantha. And a question from a listener. They say, my B2 status expired and I'm married to a green card holder. Now, can my spouse then file a marriage case for me?
That's a good question. And a lot of the time we get calls from clients who get married and they think that that will solve all of their problems. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it's not straightforward. So yes, your spouse can file a petition for you, but it gets complicated when they're not a U.S. citizen and you're out of status. So just to give some background for, I guess, what we would call a traditional marriage case, we can do it in a one-step process. Mm-hmm. That would be the I-130 petition, the family petition or the marriage petition, and the I-485, which is the green card application. Those two can be filed together as long as either your spouse is a U.S. citizen and you have a valid entry, or if your spouse is a green card holder and you're still maintaining status. Mm-hmm. Of course, assuming the priority date is current as well. But if you are out of status, like this listener is, you're not eligible to do the above, especially if you're married to a green card holder. Mm-hmm. So you would need to do the I-130, the marriage petition, and then I guess the I-601A, which is a provisional waiver. Now, that's a really long process. It's much more expensive. And eventually you would need to process at the embassy back home. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of risk associated with that. And during this long process, there is no protection. So what we've been hearing on the news about immigration arrests increasing, unfortunately, this process doesn't afford you any type of protection. Oh. So, if we do get a call like this, what we want to look for are some alternative options. So one could be what's called a 245I benefit. And I think we may have discussed this on the show a few times. So essentially, if a petition was filed on your behalf or on a parent or spouse's behalf sometimes before April 30th of 2001, mm-hmm. it may allow you to just go ahead with the green card process in the U.S. Or if your spouse naturalizes, applies for citizenship. Now, that becomes its own analysis, right? Because we need to make sure your spouse is actually eligible to file for citizenship. We look at everything, but primarily any criminal issues, whether they've had their green card long enough. Obviously that's a big factor, and also if they've traveled extensively during their time in the U.S., during their time as green card holders. We need to make sure that they've maintained their residence and their continuous presence, physical presence throughout the time that they had that green card to make sure they're actually eligible. Mm-hmm. Or depending on how long this person may have been out of status, possibly they can do some sort of Nunc Pro Tunc or backdated application to extend status or change status, but those are really discretionary, and it really depends on the situation and the circumstances of the individual, how long they've been out of status, why they were, have fallen out of status. So it really becomes case by case. So short answer for this listener is that yes, your spouse can file, mm-hmm. but it might not help resolve your immigration status. So the best piece of advice is to maintain any immigration status for as long as you can, and always look at the big picture, at the end goal. So if your plan is to eventually file a marriage case, try and maintain your status up until that point that you're able to file. Don't just assume that you'll file the marriage case at some point. You need to be able to piece together your entire process and your strategy. So when we meet with clients, we don't just say, go ahead and file this. We need to make sure that every step that we're taking is going to get them to their end goal. So that's just a piece of advice for any of our listeners. Make sure you're planning ahead and that you're making sure that all of the steps you're taking get you to that end point.
Yes. And of course, the NPZ Law Group is there to guide you through. I mean, this is not something you can really take lightly. You need that considered advice and expert advice on this to navigate through it, right? Lots to be considered. Thank you for that, Samantha. Really appreciate it. So there you have it. That's Samantha Oberstein. And of course, part of the NPZ Law Group, your one-stop shop for the entire range of US and Canadian immigration matters. Don't hesitate to reach out to them today. Visit visaserve.com or call them at 201-670-0006 and mention Mirchi to get that discount off your consult. More insights on immigration with the NPZ Law Group. We'll be back in a jiffy. Keep listening to Mirchi. It's hot.